Code of Hammurabi. Among the rulers of Amorite dynasty who made the territory of Babylonia in the lower Euphrates Valley as the center of their political activities in Mesopotamia, King Hammurabi from 2123 to 2080 BCE was the greatest. Actuated by the motive to establish a political unity in Mesopotamia and initiate an orderly course of life to further interest to the human civilization and culture, he defeated all the city-states of Mesopotamia and established in a strong centralized government. In that government, the king was the supreme head of the civil, military, legal, judicial, political, religious, and revenue matters. Hammurabi was the ruler of idealism and felt that the king should regard the subject as his children. By establishing the political unity, peace, and prosperity and orderly life through the working of his government, he made Mesopotamia an orderly country. In that government, under the king existed the ministers of different departments like finance, trade, agriculture, industry, etc. Under those ministries existed large number of government officials of different grades. Hammurabi's government collected taxes in kind from the subject, collected taxes judicially and properly. His government used to carry out detailed surveys of the agricultural lands. It constructed a canal from Kish to the Persian Gulf to create an outlet for the river flood water to save the crops during the flood time. Hammurabi made Babylon an important city and beautiful city in Babylonia. He made it as his capital city. He beautified Babylonia by constructing in it palaces, temples, public buildings, and gardens. In it, he encouraged trade and industry that brought prosperity to the inhabitants of Babylon and Babylonia. Due to it, there developed an artistic and scientific activity in Babylonia, which let the people of that area play an important role in the civilization of Mesopotamia up to 331 BC. King Hammurabi was a practical ruler who, in order to make his life of his subjects sensible, orderly, progressive, introduced a code of law in Mesopotamia. The Code of Hammurabi, the most complete and perfect extant collection of Babylonian laws, developed during the reign of Hammurabi of the first dynasty of Babylon. It consists of his legal decisions that were collected towards the end of his reign and inscribed on the diorite stela set up in Babylon's temple Marduk, the national god of Babylonia. These 282 case laws include economic provision, prices, tariffs, trade, commerce, family law, marriage and divorce, as well as criminal law, assault, theft, and civil law, slavery and debt. Penalties varied according to the status of the offenders and the circumstances of the offenses. The background of the code is a body of Sumerian law under which civilized communities had lived many centuries. The text in the Akkadian language, but even though no Sumerian version is known to survive, the code was meant to be applied to a wider realm than any single country and to integrate Semitic and Sumerian tradition and people. Moreover, despite the primitive survivals relating to family solidarity, district responsibility, trial by ordeal, and lex talionis, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, the code was advanced for beyond tribal custom and recognized no blood feud, private retribution, or marriage by capture. 17 brutal laws of the Code of Hammurabi. The Hammurabi was a Babylonian king who ruled from 1792 to 1750 BC. The code set the rules for slaves also. freedmen and the freed-born people of the city-state of Babylon. It governed trade, marriage and divorce, crime and property. False accusation were deadly. First, false accusing another person of a serious crime could learn the accuser in a serious trouble. Instead, a trial as we know of them today, guilt or innocence was determined when the accused jumped into the river. If the accused sank, the person who accused him of the crime could take possession of the dead man's home. However, if the accused managed to swim to safety, the person who accused him of a crime was put to death and accused was given an accuser's home. Theft and receipt of stolen property. The Code of Hammurabi contained numerous laws governing theft and receipt of stolen property. For example, if someone stole from the people from the temple or the court, he would be put to death. If a thief gave or stole the property sold the stolen item to another person, the person would also be put to death unless he could prove he had no knowledge of the item having been stolen. Slave ownership. Tampering with another person's slave could also get a person killed. For instance, taking another person's slave outside the city gate would be a death sentence. Hiding runaway slaves was also a death sentence. Breaking someone's house. If someone were to break into a home to steal, the thief would be taken back to home, killed there, and buried. Any form of robbery was punishable by death. Theft during the fire. If a person's home was burning and someone went into his house to help to put fire out, that person was caught stealing from that home. The thief would be put to death. Rank and conspiracy. Tavern keepers had to be careful about who they allowed their establishment. Within the Code of Hammurabi, it was stated that any tavern keeper who allowed conspirator in the tavern, and if those conspirators were not caught, the tavern keeper would face the death penalty. The wife's adultery was a huge no-no in ancient Babylon. If a wife and some other men were caught, the act of having an affair, but the wife and paramour could be tied up and thrown into the river. The husband, if he desired, could pardon his wife and save from ruin. Also, if a man forced himself on another man's woman and he is caught in the act, a man would be put to death and the wife would be held blameless in this situation. Impalement. When it came to affairs, sometimes a simple drowning was considered far too kind. For instance, if the wife of a man and the husband of another woman were having an affair, he decided to murder his spouse. Both widows would face impalement. The daughter-in-law. There was also a problem with fathers having intimate moments with the wives of their sons. One of the laws stated that their son's father was caught in that act with son's wife. The father would be bound and tossed into the river. The daughter-in-law. There was also a problem with fathers having intimate moments with the wives, wives of their sons. One of the laws state that if the son's father was caught in that act with his son's wife, the father would be bound and cast into the river. Mother and son. However, if a son was caught in that act with his own mother, both himself and his mother would be buried to death. Hating. Hating women appears to have been okay during this time period unless the woman was pregnant. The court states that if a man hit a freeborn woman and she lost her children due to the injury, the man had to pay a fine. If the woman died as a result of the assault, then the man's daughter would also be put to death. Builders beware. Finally, if a house builder did not build a home properly and the house collapsed and killed the owner, the house builder was put to death. If the house collapsed and the owner's son was killed, then the son of the house builder was put to death. The Code of Hammurabi proved to be a great importance And the contents of the code of laws of Hammurabi also form the base of law by which the life of the people of Arabia, Phoenicia, and other Asia Minor countries is governed in Western Asia. That code also influenced the Roman jurisprudence. The centralized, the centralized form of government and the machinery of its administration, which Hammurabi had installed, was contained in Mesopotamia in the subsequent period in history. After Hammurabi, Mesopotamia was conquered in 1750 BC by the Kassite people of northeastern Mesopotamia from his weak successors. The Kassite, whose power was replaced in 1100 BC by the Assyrian people of the mountainous territory of North Mesopotamia, did not contribute anything to the new to the life of the Mesopotamia.